Now when Athaliah the mother of Ahaziah saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the royal heirs of the house of Judah. She murdered her own grandchildren in trying to end the Davidic dynasty. She wanted to bring Judah back under the rule of Israel's control. But Jehoshaphat, the daughter of Joram, took Joash the son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the king's sons who were being murdered, and put him and his nurse in a bedroom from Athaliah. Jehoshaphat, the daughter of King Joram, the wife of Jehoiada the priest, was the sister of Ahaziah, and she hid him from Athaliah so that she did not kill him. And he was hidden with them in the house of the Lord for 6 years while Athaliah reigned over the land. Athaliah reigned in Judah from 841 to 835 BC. In the 7th year Jehoiada strengthened himself, sent and brought the captains of hundreds, of the bodyguards and the escorts, and they went throughout Judah and gathered the Levites from all the cities of Judah, and the chief fathers of Israel, and they came to Jerusalem into the house of the Lord to him. And he made a covenant with them and took an oath from them in the house of the Lord, and showed them the king's son. He said to them, Behold, the king's son will reign as the Lord has said of the sons of David. Then he commanded them saying, This is what you will do, 1/3 of you entering on the Sabbath, of the priests and the Levites will be keeping watch over the doors, 1/3 will be at the king's house, and 1/3 at the gate of Sur, or gate of the foundation, the gate behind the escorts. You will keep the watch of the house, lest it be broken down. The 2 contingents of you who go off duty on the Sabbath will keep the watch of the house of the Lord for the king. But you will surround the king on all sides, every man with his weapons in his hand, and whoever comes within range, let him be put to death. You are to be with the king as he goes out and as he comes in. All the people will be in the courts of the house of the Lord. But let no one come into the house of the Lord except the priests and those of the Levites who serve. They may go in, for they are holy, but all the people will keep the watch of the Lord. So the captains of the hundreds did according to all that Jehoiada the priest commanded. Each of them took his men who were to be on duty on the Sabbath, with those who were going off duty on the Sabbath, and came to Jehoiada the priest. And the priest gave the captains of hundreds the spears and shields, which had belonged to King David, that were in the temple of the Lord. Then the escorts, the Levites, stood every man with his weapons in his hand all around the king, from the right side of the temple to the left side of the temple, by the altar and the house. And he brought out the king's son, put the crown on him and gave him the testimony, they made him king and anointed him, and they clapped their hands and said, Long live the king. Now when Athaliah heard the noise of the escorts and the people running and praising the king, she came to the people in the temple of the Lord. When she looked, there was the king standing by his pillar at the entrance, according to custom, and the leaders and the trumpeters were by the king. All the people of the land were rejoicing and blowing trumpets, the singers with musical instruments, and those who led in praise. So Athaliah tore her clothes and cried out, Treason! Treason! Then Jehoiada the priest commanded the captains of the hundreds, the officers of the army, and said to them, Take her outside under guard and slay with the sword whoever follows her. For the priest had said, Do not let her be killed in the house of the Lord. So they seized her, and she went by way of the entrance of the horse gate into the king's house, and there she was killed. Then Jehoiada made a covenant between the Lord, the king, and the people, that they should be the Lord's people. And all the people of the land went to the temple of Baal, and tore it down. They thoroughly broke in pieces its altars and images, and killed Mattan the priest of Baal before the altars, and the priest appointed officers over the house of the Lord, to offer the burnt offerings of the Lord, as it is written in the law of Moses, with rejoicing and with singing as it was established by David. He set the gatekeepers at the gates of the house of the Lord, so that no one who was in any way unclean should enter. Then he took the captains of hundreds, the bodyguards, the nobles, the governors of the people, and all the people of the land, and they brought the king down from the house of the Lord and went by way of the upper gate of the escorts to the king's house, and set the king on the throne of the kingdom. So all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet, for they had slain Athaliah with the sword in the king's house. Joash was 7 years old when he became king. He reigned from 835 to 796 BC. In the 7th year of Jehu, Joash became king, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba. Joash did what was right in the sight of the Lord all the days in which Jehoiada the priest instructed him. And Jehoiada took 2 wives for him, and he had sons and daughters. However, the high places were not taken away, the people still sacrificed and burned incense on the high places. Now, it happened after this, that Joash set his heart on repairing the house of the Lord. Then he gathered the priests and the Levites, and said to them, Go out to the cities of Judah, and gather from all Israel money to repair the house of your God from year to year, and see that you do it quickly. All the money of the dedicated gifts that are brought into the house of the Lord, each man's census money, each man's assessment money, and all the money that a man purposes in his heart to bring into the house of the Lord, let the priests take it themselves, each from his constituency, and let them repair the damages of the temple wherever any dilapidation is found. But the Levites did not do it quickly. Now, it was so by the 23rd year of King Joash, that the priests had not repaired the damages of the temple. So the king called Jehoiada the chief priest, and the other priests, and said to them, Why have you not repaired the damages of the temple? Why have you not required the Levites to bring in from Judah and from Jerusalem the collection, according to the commandment of Moses the servant of the Lord and of the assembly of Israel, for the tabernacle of witness? For the sons of Athaliah, that wicked woman, had broken into the house of God and had presented all the dedicated things of the house of the Lord to the Baals. Now do not take more money from your constituency, but deliver it for repairing the damages of the temple. Then at the king's command, they made a chest, and Jehoiada the priest took a chest, bored a hole in its lid and set it before the altar, on the right side as one comes into the house of the Lord, and the priests who kept the door put there all the money brought into the house of the Lord. And they made a proclamation throughout Judah and Jerusalem to bring to the Lord the collection that Moses the servant of God had imposed on Israel in the wilderness. So it was, whenever they saw that there was much money in the chest, that the king's scribe and the high priest came up and put it in bags, and counted the money that was found in the house of the Lord. Then all the leaders and all the people rejoiced, brought their contributions, and put them into the chest until all had given. So it was at that time, when the chest was brought to the king's official by the hand of the Levites, and when they saw that there was much money, that the king's scribe and the high priest's officer came and emptied the chest, and took it and returned it to its place. They did this day by day, and gathered money in abundance. The king and Jehoiada gave the money into the hands of those who did the work of the service of the house of the Lord. They paid it out to carpenters and builders who worked on the house of the Lord, to masons and stonecutters, for buying timber and hewn stone, and for those who worked in iron and bronze to restore the house of God to its original condition and reinforced it. When they had finished, they brought the rest of the money before the king and Jehoiada, and they made from it articles for the house of the Lord, articles for serving and offering, spoons and vessels of gold and silver. And they offered burnt offerings in the house of the Lord continually all the days of Jehoiada. Jehoiada the priest grew old and was full of days, and he died. He was 130 years old when he died. And they buried him in the city of David among the kings, because he had done good in Israel, toward both God, and his house. Now after the death of Jehoiada, the leaders of Judah came and bowed down to King Joash. And the king listened to them. So they left the house of the Lord God of their fathers, and served wooden images and idols, and wrath came upon Judah and Jerusalem because of their trespass. Yet, the Lord sent prophets to them, to bring them back to the Lord, and they testified against them, but they would not listen. Then the Spirit of God came upon Zechariah the son of Jehoiada the priest. He is not Zechariah the son of Berechiah who was a prophet that wrote the book of Zechariah, and prophesied during the time of the Babylonian captivity of Judah. This Zechariah stood above the people and said to them, Thus says God, why do you transgress the commandments of the Lord, so that you cannot prosper? Because you have forsaken the Lord, he also has forsaken you. So they conspired against him, and at the command of the king, they stoned him with stones in the court of the house of the Lord. So Joash the king did not remember the kindness which Jehoiada his father had done to him, but killed his son, and as he died, he said, "The Lord look on it, and repay." So it happened in the spring of the year that the army of Syria came up against Joash, and they came to Judah and Jerusalem, destroyed all the leaders of the people from among the people, and sent all their spoil to the king of Damascus. For the army of the Syrians, under Hazael, he came with a small company of men, but the Lord delivered a very great army into their hand, because they had forsaken the Lord God of their fathers. And Joash king of Judah took all the sacred things that his fathers, Jehoshaphat, and Jehoram and Ahaziah, kings of Judah, had dedicated, and his own sacred things, and all the gold found in the treasuries of the house of the Lord and in the king's house, and sent them to Hazael king of Syria. Then he went away from Jerusalem. So they executed judgment against Joash. And when they had withdrawn from him, for they left him severely wounded, his own servants conspired against him because of the blood of the sons of Jehoiada the priest, and killed him on his bed in the house of the Millo which goes down to Silla. For Josachar and Jehozabad, his servants, struck him. Then he died. And they buried him in the city of David, but they did not bury him in the tombs of the kings. The ones who conspired against Joash were Zabad the son of Shimith the Ammonites, and Jehozabad the son of Shimrith the Moabitess. Now concerning his sons, and the many oracles about him, and the repairing of the house of God, indeed they are written in the annals of the book of the kings of Judah. Then Amaziah his son reigned in his place. In the 23rd year of Joash, the son of Ahaziah, king of Judah, Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu became king over Israel in Samaria, and reigned 17 years. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord, and followed the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin. He did not depart from them. Then the anger of the Lord was aroused against Israel, and he delivered them into the hand of Hazael, king of Syria, and into the hand of Ben-Hadad, the son of Hazael all their days. Then Jehoahaz pleaded with the Lord, and the Lord listened to him, for he saw the oppression of Israel because the king of Syria oppressed them. Then the Lord gave Israel a deliverer so that they escaped from under the hand of the Syrians, and the children of Israel dwelt in their tents as before. Nevertheless, they did not depart from the sins of the house of Jeroboam, who had made Israel sin, but walked in them, and the wooden image remained in Samaria. For he left of the army of Jehoahaz only 50 horsemen, 10 chariots, and 10,000 foot soldiers, for the king of Syria had destroyed them and made them like the dust at threshing. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoahaz, all that he did, and his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? Then Jehoahaz rested with his fathers, and they buried him in Samaria. Then Jehoash his son reigned in his place. In the 37th year of Joash king of Judah, Jehoash the son of Jehoahaz became king over Israel in Samaria, and reigned 16 years. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not depart from all the sins of Jeroboam and the son of Nebat, who made Israel's sin, but walked in them. Now Elisha, the prophet had become sick with the illness of which he would die. Then Jehoash, the king of Israel came down to him, wept over his face, and said, O my father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen. Elisha said to him, Take a bow and some arrows. So he took himself a bow and some arrows. Then he said to the king of Israel, Put your hand on the bow. So he put his hand on it, and Elisha put his hands on the king's hands. And he said, Open the east window, and he opened it. Then Elisha said, Shoot, and he shot. And he said, The arrow of the Lord's deliverance and the arrow of deliverance from Syria, for you must strike the Syrians at effect till you have destroyed them. Then he said, Take the arrows, so he took them. And he said to the king of Israel, Strike the ground, so he struck 3 times and stopped. And Elisha, the man of God, was angry with him and said, You should have struck 5 of 6 times, then you would have struck Syria till you had destroyed it. But now you will strike Syria only 3 times. Then Elisha died, and they buried him. and the raiding bands from Moab invaded the land in the spring of the year. So it was as they were burying a man, that suddenly they spied a band of raiders, and they put the man in the tomb of Elisha, and when the man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood of his feet. Hazael, king of Syria, oppressed Israel all the days of Jehoahaz. But the Lord was gracious to the children of Israel, had compassion on them, and regarded them because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and would not yet destroy them or cast them from his presence. Now Hazael, king of Syria, died. Then Ben-Hadad his son reigned in his place. And Jehoash the son of Jehoahaz recaptured from the hand of Ben-Hadad, the son of Hazael, the cities which he had taken out of the hand of Jehoahaz his father by war. 3 times Jehoash defeated him and recaptured the cities of Israel. In the 2nd year of Jehoash the son of Jehoahaz, king of Israel, Amaziah the son of Joash, king of Judah became king. Amaziah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jehoadan of Jerusalem. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord, but not with a loyal heart like his father David. He did everything as his father Joash had done. However, the high places were not taken away, and the people still sacrificed and burned incense on the high places. Now it happened, as soon as the kingdom was established in his hand, that he executed his servants who had murdered his father the king. But he did not execute their children, but did as it is written in the law in the book of Moses, where the Lord commanded, saying, The fathers shall not be put to death for their children, nor shall the children be put to death for their fathers, but a person will die for his own sin. Amaziah gathered Judah together and set over them captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, according to their fathers' houses, throughout all Judah and Benjamin, and he numbered them from 20 years old and above. And found them to be 300,000 choice men able to go to war, who could handle spear and shield. He also hired 100,000 mighty men of valor from Israel for 100 talents of silver. But a man of God came to him saying, O king, do not let the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord is not with Israel, not with any of the children of Ephraim. But if you go, be gone. Be strong in battle. Even so, God will make you fall before the enemy, for God has power to help and to overthrow. Then Amaziah said to the man of God, But what will we do about the 100 talents which I have given to the troops of Israel? And the man of God answered, The Lord is able to give you much more than this. So Amaziah discharged the troops that had come to him from Ephraim, to go back home. And their anger was greatly aroused against Judah, and they returned home in great anger. Then Amaziah strengthened himself, and leading his people, he went to the valley of Salt and killed 10,000 Edomites, the people of Seir in the valley of Salt, took Selah by war, and called its name Joktheel to this day. Also, the children of Judah took captive 10,000 alive, brought them to the top of the rock, and cast them down from the top of the rock, so that they all were dashed in pieces. But as for the soldiers of the army which Amaziah had discharged, so that they would not go with him to battle, they raided the cities of Judah from Samaria to Beth-horon, killed 3,000 in them, and took much spoil. Now it was so, after Amaziah came from the slaughter of the Edomites, that he brought the gods of the people of Seir, set them up to be his gods, and bowed down before them and burned incense to them. Therefore, the anger of the Lord was aroused against Amaziah, and he sent him a prophet who said to him, Why have you sought the gods of the people, which could not rescue their own people from your hand? So it was, as he talked with him, that the king said to him, Have we made you the king's counselor? Cease. Why should you be killed? Then the prophet ceased, and said, I know that God has determined to destroy you, because you have done this and have not heeded my advice. Now Amaziah asked advice and sent messengers to Jehoash the son of Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, king of Israel, saying, Come, and let us face one another in battle. And Jehoash king of Israel sent to Amaziah king of Judah, saying, The thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, Give your daughter to my son as wife, and a wild beast that was in Lebanon passed by and trampled the thistle. Indeed, you say that you have defeated the Edomites, and your heart has lifted you up to boast. Glory in that, and stay at home, for why should you meddle with trouble so that you should fall, you and Judah with you? But Amaziah would not heed, for it came from God that he might give them into the hand of their enemies because they sought the gods of Edom. Therefore, Jehoash king of Israel went out, so he and Amaziah king of Judah faced one another at Beth-shemesh which belongs to Judah. And Judah was defeated by Israel, and every man fled to his tent. Then Jehoash king of Israel captured Amaziah king of Judah, the son of Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz, at Beth-shemesh, and he brought him to Jerusalem, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim to the corner gate, 400 cubits. And he took all the gold and silver, all the articles that were found in the house of the Lord with Obed-Edom's sons, who were in charge of the storehouse of the temple, the treasuries of the king's house, hostages, and returned to Samaria. Now, the rest of the acts of Jehoash which he did, his might, and how he fought with Amaziah king of Judah, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? Then Jehoash rested with his fathers. Then Jeroboam too sat on his throne. And Jehoash was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah, lived 15 years after the death of Jehoash the son of Jehoahaz, king of Israel. Now the rest of the acts of Amaziah from first to last, indeed are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah and Israel? After the time that Amaziah turned away from following the Lord, they formed a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish, but they sent after him to Lachish and killed him there. Then they brought him on horses and buried him with his fathers in the city of David. And all the people of Judah took Azariah, who was 16 years old, and made him king instead of his father Amaziah. He built Elath and restored it to Judah, after the king rested with his fathers. If this video has been a blessing to you, please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks.